Welcome back, everyone. This is Dr. Gwen, and we're back today talking about moms from striving to thriving. This is a training that you wish you had years ago. And as you know, we don't have our kids with manuals, and so it's really good to tune into all the personal growth and development information that we can get a hold of that will help us to be the best moms, the best parents that we can possibly be in any given moment. And so today we are going to be talking about what children need to cooperate. Yesterday, you will recall, we talked about the styles of parenting and how those styles impact your kids. Now, this is a continuation of that lesson in a sense because some of these things that children need are deficits of some of the parental styles that we talked about yesterday. And if you will recall, the authoritarian style is that bossy parent. I said it, so you do it. And don't ask me any questions. They're a little detached, not warm and fuzzy. Then there is the neglectful parent, which is that totally hands off, not available, not there, just distant and cold, non communicative, not participating in anything in the child's life. And there is the indulgent parent. The indulgent parent is one who has the kids running the show. These kids are bosses of their parents. They run the show and they pretty much tell their parents how it is. Parents lavish a lot of love on them, but there are no standards and no levels of accountability as with the last one. And then there is the authoritative form of parenting, and that is the style of parenting that produces assertive kids. They're well rounded, they're respectable, they tend to make right choices. And of course, I want to put a little caveat in here to say that nothing is going to ever guarantee that your kids will be 100% right. You can do everything 100% the right way, and some of them will end up making choices that suit them. So you just need to understand this and know this, that these strategies, however, are proven to be more useful than they are not. So if you err on the side of using the styles of the parenting and using those conversations that help these kids to develop that level of assertiveness and competence, then it will make a difference in their lives. And sooner or later, at least they will know what is right. So if they go off course, that will be in the back of their minds so that sometimes they do a full circle and come right back to where you taught them. However, if they don't have that foundation, they have nothing to come back to. So it's really important to set the foundation. So what do kids need to cooperate? We will talk today about how to identify the four distinct characteristics that kids need to facilitate cooperation. And then the second objective, to identify the theoretical goals. And we say theoretical, they're theories that have been observed. I personally have used them as a classroom teacher in my classroom and with my kids at home, and they work. They work like charms. So I would say about 90 to 95% of the time they work, and that is a high percentage. So what are the goals for misbehaving? Kids, when they misbehave, they have four general goals that they want to achieve by misbehaving. We look at those. And then finally, I want you to assess the degree to which transformation is needed in your own experience, in your own life, in your own family to implement the four areas in your relationship. So let's go ahead and get started. So what do kids need to cooperate? The four C's of cooperation. The first one is choices. From as young as they are able to understand language, you can give them choices. And those choices are going to be within certain parameters the younger they are. The older they get, the more open the options can be for them to pick around. So you can give them, if they're younger kids, two options. For example, you may say, which of these shirts do you want to wear today? Of course, you're going to coordinate the shirts with the pants or the skirt or what the dress, whatever it is, and you give them a choice so that they feel a level of control from that point when they are smaller. So give them options so that they can choose. The older they get, the broader the options would be. You can leave it open. Well, you choose what you want to do. And having the choices help kids learn to cooperate. I can tell you a lot of examples that I've had in my educational experiences with the differences this made in the among the teachers' classrooms when I was an administrator. The second C that the kids need, they want to feel competent. They want to feel a level of success, that they're able to do something without feeling criticized, without feeling put down, without feeling laughed at, without feeling as though they lack something major that the other kids in the household have. Now, an example I can share with you, when I first got trained to become an educator, one of the things my professor said to me and to the group of us as educators to be is that when you create your test, the first thing you want to do is not ever to start your test at the most difficult level. There's a psychological thing that happens when you make your test hard and everybody fails, because it already sets in their mind what the rest of the year is going to look like, and they may give up. So you want to have fairness, you want to have that quality check, you want to have honesty, and that team spirit all coming together in that feeling of competence. And that competence is going to be of such a nature that those kids feel like they can do it. So you give them something that is age appropriate or disability appropriate and allow them to succeed. Set the barometer low enough so that they can succeed. Once they succeed at that level, you raise the barometer a little higher. So then you start increasing the difficulty of your test, and soon the kids are performing at that level and they don't realize it. So when you give that first test and everybody passes, my goodness, you can see the glee and the joy on their faces. Likewise in your home, when you're giving tasks to do, which we'll talk about how to develop competence in kids tomorrow. But when you are giving them the task, you have to give them things that are in agreement with their level of their age or their disability so that they can experience that success. Then the next C is kids, and this is not just kids, people. This is every single human being. If you take what I'm saying right now and just put it in the space of everybody in your relationship, it works. But we're talking about you as a mom in your home and how you can establish this leadership and this spirit of wonderful agreement and community. In that space, everybody wants to know that they are a part of the community. I'm a part of your life is what it says. Don't leave me on the outside looking in or on the inside looking out at everybody having fun. Include me. I want to feel connected. I want to feel that I'm a part. I want to feel that I'm important. I want to feel that I belong. So these are the things that you as a parent need to be mindful of. Always being on the lookout if kids are feeling left out of any activity, no matter how tiny. If you're giving something special, let's say there's an errand that you normally give one kid to run all the time, and there's another kid that is equally as old and capable, have that other kid run the errand sometimes. Even though you may think you're giving this one kid work, this other kid may be looking at it as you favoriting that other kid. And so a lot of times in our parenting, there is such a thing that's called the hidden curriculum. And that hidden curriculum is something you never intended to teach. You never verbalized it, you never said it, but kids pick it up from what you do or didn't do. So you have to pay attention to the dynamics that are going on in your home. Particularly if you're in a blended family household, it's very important. When I got married again, it was an amazing experience. We now had six children in the household, and I became acutely aware because of my knowledge of how kids viewed things. Because you can be exactly doing the same thing with two kids, and yet the other kid perceived it quite differently. So sometimes in that case, I had to skew a little bit against my kids to cause it to look fair and even. Now, not too much, and not so my kids felt disadvantaged, but so my kids were also older in this relationship, so I was able to do that. Now, what are you able to do? If you have a blended family that's coming together, those kids all need to feel a part of the same community as if they are a part of your life and as if they all belong. So make sure you pay attention to that. Then the next C is they want to contribute. Not only do they want the success, but they want that teamwork. They want to feel like they bring something to the table and that whatever they bring, you value it. So you have to make certain that you are ensuring that when the kids do something, when they contribute something, you thank them profusely before you go to critical judgment. Don't go there. Just thank them. And then perhaps at a later time, if there is a need for growth, you can talk about what could happen to increase that relationship. And I'm not talking about when you are training and developing them to do a task. When you're training them and developing them to do a task, then it's time enough to show them the right way and to correct their errors there so they don't continue to make the same error. But in general, everyone, including your kids, they all want to feel like their contribution matters, they're part of the team, and that it's important. Now, what are the motives for misbehavior? All of what I just went through tie in with some of the styles of parenting we talk about. And kids have some goals that they want to achieve when they misbehave. And you will be surprised to know what those goals are. There are four of them. One of them is attention. Any kid who feels like he or she is not getting attention will act up. They will probably pull stuff, run around, whatever you know they're trying to do to get attention. Now there is a way to deal with this. If you know that this behavior is attention, the worst thing you want to do is to give it to them. Because when you do that, you automatically reinforce it so they know exactly what to do to get your attention next time. So what do? There are a couple things. You probably don't want to point your finger that way, right? Because that's giving attention to the behavior, as in that image. But what you want to do is to ignore it if you can. So if the kid is wailing and crying and screaming for something, you just simply state that this is just absolutely not the way to get it. And if you continue to do that, you will not get it. My kids learned that real early. We would go to the store and they would be, well, I want that, and carrying on. And I know that I was not going to reward that behavior. And I told them exactly how they needed to act if they wanted to get it. See, you have to educate your kids about the way you want them to act. But you don't want to give attention to it. So what do? You can ignore it if it's light enough. You can give them the eye. Just give a glance over in the direction with a solid stare until they stop. That's not giving them attention, because when they get attention, you're physically involved, and usually there is an audience that they're looking to please, as with another example that I'll show you. So there's typically an audience that they want to entertain when they're looking to get attention. So just really looking over there and refusing to respond, because that is the payoff. And giving the eye is one way that you can definitely deal with that. Now, another one is for control. Power. These kids, they will do anything to lock into an argument and a discussion with you to show who is the boss. Like, see that rooster right there? Standing up with his wings out. I am the boss in here, and you are not going to tell me what to do. Now, this type of behavior sometimes is displayed as the kids get older. Sometimes you will see that. I see that sometimes in the classroom. I'll tell you one example that I saw when I was teaching middle school math. And this kid was a new kid, and he came to my class. And the other kids were already caught up in the routine of coming in before the bell. They should be sitting on the seats. I trained them the way I wanted them to behave. You've got to train your kids the way you want them to behave. So I told them exactly what being early was and what being late was. If you were not sitting in that seat, if butt and chair are not colliding, you are tardy. You must not be out of your seat when the bell rings. And that's one way I got the level of cooperation to start the lesson on time so they didn't have to miss out. Because if you have them sitting down, then you're going to have to spend class time settling them, sending everybody to their seat. Now imagine my story in your house and how that would fit. So I'm giving you an example in the classroom. And so they knew. So when the bell rang, everybody was in their seat, as they always are. And this new kid was new to my class. He came wandering in late. And he came in and he stood up, and he wasn't sitting, and I was about to start my lesson, and I asked him to sit. And he stood up. He stood there staring at me and started to want to argue. Now, when a kid needs control, then they're in a power struggle. And if you engage in that struggle with that kid, then you have lost, because they have an audience, right? The thing you can do with the power on the control kid is if you remove the audience, sometimes that may deflate it, but sometimes it doesn't. It does for the attention behavior kid. If that kid wants attention and the audience is gone, then probably he'll quiet down. But the power kid, that control kid, has a different objective. They want you to know, I make my own decisions and I am in charge of my life, and you are not going to tell me what to do. So what do you do about that? As the kids grow older, confronting is the worst thing, because that will escalate the situation. So maintaining your adult stance, because you're not going to cower and behave pitifully, and you're not going to come across aggressively either, but maintaining your calm and your composure, you give a choice. So here's what I did. When that kid said, I'm not going to sit down, and he started going, all the kids' mouths were like, their jaws were dropped. They never saw that behavior in my classroom before. And they all turned their eyes to see what I was going to do. And I said, okay, very well, Johnny, whether you sit or whether you stand, that is your choice. However, understand this, that sitting has its consequence and standing has its consequence. And I just turned my back and started writing my lesson on the board, and immediately that kid go plop, and I heard nothing out of him for the rest of the year. No issues, no problems. See, if I had engaged with him, a few things would have happened. I would have lost control of the other kid, and he would have come back the next day to engage. It would have been a battle. And the fact that I maintained my calm and my composure, and I gave him a choice, because he wants to feel like he is in control. So I gave him a choice. I can't make you sit, and I won't make you sit. That's not my role. It's your choice. However, just understand that there are consequences. Now, when that happens, though, you don't want to leave it as if nothing happens. You want to address it in quiet with the kid later and assign the appropriate consequence. Don't let them feel as though this is something they can repeatedly do and get away with it. So you really want to assign the consequence. And then the next thing they want to do is to get even. They want to get even with you. Some of these kids may be hurt. It's kind of like, revenge. They will kick stuff. They will break stuff. They will run around and pull other kids' hair. They might take it out on you, or they may take it out on the other kids in the household. They're generally angry. And sometimes kids behave like this because there's a painful situation that may be happening. Perhaps maybe in the home they may have missed their dad because of a divorce, or maybe there's a death or something. They may end up stealing, damaging people's property, just all kinds of destructive stuff. They may yell, I hate you! That type of behavior outside of a disability, because I do understand that some kids also have disabilities. And I do have a story about that. At one point in New York City, I was actually teaching a school where there were kids with disabilities. And these kids were supposedly emotionally disturbed kids. And so I stood up in the classroom, and this one kid got up and he started cursing profanity. I'd never had that in my entire life. No kid stood up in my class and cursed. So I was shaken, visibly shaken. So I looked over at him and I said, Johnny, every kid today will be Johnny. Johnny, he was speaking it in some kind of other native language, which I understood. And I said, Johnny, the other kids didn't know. I said, Johnny, I know exactly what you are saying right now. And do you think your parents would be happy to know about it? No, no, miss, no, miss, please. And he sat down. That kid was good for the rest of the year. You have to know exactly where to address with your kids to stop the behavior and to have them feel connected. Now, of course, if you take on those four things that the kids need to develop cooperation, then some of these behaviors will not quite likely show up. Those four areas we talked about, that they need choices. They just need to make sure they're able to make a connection with you, that they can make a contribution, and that they're feeling competent. So if those things are in place, quite likely there may not be these goals that show up. So some kids want to get even. And what do? Don't confront again. You just need to give them the choice and then try to understand and let them feel the connection. That part, that community part, the kids who feel like they're lacking community and maybe they've lost a loved one, they're needing the connection and they may not know how to say it. So you can teach them after that event to say, hey, what was the reason why you acted that way? Let me show you how you can say it next time, which will get my attention readily. If you say to me, Mom, I am feeling really lonely right now, I need some attention, then I will be able to give you the attention. Say that, learn to say that to your brothers and sisters, and educate the brothers and sisters so that they are a part of the conversation and they understand how it works, so everyone can fit in and give each other love when we need it. After all, we're all humans and we all need attention. Then the fourth one is to avoid looking incapable. Some kids will act like they're sick, like you may give them a task to do and they may feel like they can't do it, that they are not competent to do it. And so they will misbehave. They will disobey you and not do the task, not because they want to disobey you, but because they want to save face, because they don't want to look like they can't do it in front of their friends or in front of their peers or in front of their siblings. So you have to understand what that motive is and really get to the motive and the heart of this. What you want to do with this kid is to let them know that, hey, you know what? You're capable. You're competent. Give them positive affirmations so that they can talk. build them up every day so that they understand what their inner abilities are. Kids are very, very pliable, flexible creatures and very forgiving. It's very seldom that a kid will carry a grudge for a long time. They're usually very forgiving. So you show them that they are capable, help them to believe in themselves, and give them tasks. Once again, those four C's that they need to cooperate, give them tasks that cause them to feel capable. And then you won't have these issues. So, what I want to do now is to summarize with you because we covered a mouthful. And we covered the four C's that kids need: the choices, the competence, the community, and the contribution. And we know that these are important not just for any kid, but just for any human being. We also just now covered the four goals why kids misbehave: what they want, attention, control, getting even, and even to avoid looking incapable. Your goal as a parent is to get to the source of the goal of their misbehavior. If you can figure out why they're misbehaving, you can typically solve the issue immediately. Now, I'm going to give you an assignment. Are you ready for it? I want you to assess why you believe you have any behavioral issues at home. And then I want you to use the strategies to nip it in the bud. What I am going to do is to provide you a little cheat sheet with a summary of what I just covered. And if you enter your name and your email address in that box, typically just use the same email address. If you have used it before, use that same email address. Don't use a different one. And you will be offered the download for this information so that you can use this data to assess your disciplinary issues at home. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow, and tomorrow will be really exciting because we are going to cover helping your kids develop competence. So thank you once again.